What's up, everyone? Today, I'm joined by Andi Berisha. Andi is a real estate investor and a real estate agent. And on this episode, we talk about investing, getting started as an investor, and what to do as a brand new real estate agent. I'm Jake Garay from the Garay-Mashaw team with Berkshire Hathaway. And you're listening to my podcast, Selling the Suburbs. I'm sitting down with real estate agents, investors, experts, and various professionals throughout the industry. On Selling the Suburbs, we're discussing the truth about real estate, entrepreneurship, and the ever-changing housing market. What's up, man?
Hey, what's going on, Jake?
So I'm glad that we finally got to do this. I know we talked about it. But yeah, I mean, let's start out for people who don't know you. Kind of tell us your background. Obviously, you're an investor, you're a real estate broker. Kind of how you got into the business, what interested you about real estate. Kind of take us through your real estate journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So ever since, a young age, my father's been in real estate, investment properties, kind of seeing what's been going on through since a young age. So, definitely the learning experience from real estate that made me want to become and continue in my real estate journey. So definitely since a young age, it's always been something I want to do for sure. So that's basically how it started since I was younger.
That's awesome. And how old were you when you bought your first property? Because I know you own how many units now?
We own 27 units, me and my two cousins.
That's pretty awesome. And how old are you?
I am 21 years old right now.
Had to think about it for a second. Like, wait, how old am I? That's awesome. So 27 units at 21 years old.
Yes, sir.
That's amazing. And kind of talk us through how that happened. Like, how did you buy or how did you find that first deal? What made you decide like now? And it's all residential multifamily, right?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So basically how it started, the thought process was ever since I was a little kid, we've been in my family's restaurant. My family owns a restaurant in Beacon. Mm-hmm. We've been saving money for multiple years. Me and my two cousins, we always had this journey and like this path. We wanted to start in real estate. We wanted to continue like what my father's doing. We wanted to buy our first investment property. And to be honest, it wasn't really played out when the time came up. It's just the right opportunity was there. We were with the right broker. We were able to secure a deal that, fit what we needed at that period of time. And I think it's more about the right place, right time. And it definitely was at that time. So
which was the first property you bought? How many units was it?
That was 8 units in Poughkeepsie.
Okay. And how did you kind of, when you evaluate a deal, right? How are you evaluating? Like, do you have specific criteria that you're looking at or a certain rate of return that you want to purchase?
Absolutely. So, of course we were younger at the time. So at a cap rate, we weren't basically taking a look at that, but we were basically saying, is it possible for what the rental is right now and the money that we have are able to put down? Is there an opportunity to make money? Yeah. That's basically what it comes down to at the end of the day. And, of course we were nervous. There was a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts, a lot of aspects, but, we saw the opportunity to make money. And, of course my father was a heavy influence on us. This is a good circumstance to be in. And I was like, yeah, we were ready to take the risk, and it definitely played out.
Was it something when you evaluated the building, was it like turnkey? Was it move-in ready, or did you have to do a bunch of work?
So basically, we saw the potential that was in the building. So although, it was getting income and it was covering its expensive and the mortgage that we're going to need, it still, needed the work and needed the apartments to be fixed and better tenants in the unit. Yeah. We were having issues with the tenants, and, all we had to do was just, time fixes everything. Time heals all. So fixed the units, get the tenants that we liked in, brought them to market price, and now the building's performing really well.
That's awesome. Did you, when you were renovating, kind of taking on the property, did you do a lot of the work yourself? Did you hire people to do it?
Absolutely. Yeah, we had to do it ourselves. We didn't, all the money went towards the building. We didn't have the money to hire somebody, a painter, $1,200 to come in and paint the apartment. Although we didn't know how to do it, we had to try. We had to fix it up. My dad, he was there, he was showing us like, look, this is how you go with a roller. This is,
that's awesome.
Basically the circumstances that we were under. It was like we first started, like, we had no money to hire somebody and get started. So that's what we had to do.
So you kind of, being that your dad has that experience in the industry, you kind of used him as a mentor figure to take you through like, hey, this is what a good deal looks like, and these are the improvements that you should make, and kind of like, obviously you had the sweat equity, you had the cash, everything like that. But you kind of had that mentor there to help you and guide you through the process.
Exactly. You know, without him and his circumstances and what he's done from ever since he was a young age, you know, that definitely took a long time to learn, and we didn't understand how these things worked. We wanted to get it. Of course, you want to buy something, but you need to understand what comes with this. What do you have to do to make it successful?
So now obviously you're a broker, but before you said you weren't and you had a good broker at hand. What were some of the things that your agent did when you were buying that property that helped you kind of like feel comfortable with the deal and make sure that you were, doing the right thing?
So basically, what I actually really appreciated, he just understood the numbers. You know, we understood that this was our first investment property. You know, we didn't have a lot of money to spare. If things went wrong or it didn't work out the way we played it, you know, we would be in a bad situation. But with that being said, the broker was there. He was able to understand our needs, understand what a successful property would be and what price we needed to get it at. And I think having a broker like that that's involved and that's able to get you a property and that's able to understand what your needs are as a client, that's something huge to have.
Yeah, and I think from what I've seen, kind of how I got into the business, similar background, come from family that was investors and, builders and things like that. I got in because of the lack of amount of agents that are out there who understand the investment side, understand the commercial side, understand the construction and the development side. And it just felt like it was hard to find the right agent to have that partnership with, because a lot of agents don't understand how to underwrite a deal. They don't understand how to evaluate the numbers, and they don't know that. So obviously it's good that you found that agent that first time through, because a lot of the time you don't have that. And obviously, it paid dividends now as an agent yourself. You kind of have that benefit of going through it as a buyer with not putting on your agent hat, and now obviously having the perception and the perspective of an agent assisting clients who are evaluating, and that obviously offers a lot of experience.
Exactly. And with that being said, at that time, I really didn't understand how everything worked. So, of course, he had a previous relationship with my father, and, that could have definitely influenced everything that was been going on. But, his urgency, his understanding of what we needed was definitely something positive to have, and still something I use in my business today.
How long have you owned that building for now?
It's been 3 years.
Okay. And when you purchased, how many properties did you look at?
To be honest, that was the third property we took a look at.
The third one.
Yeah.
Okay. So you did look at a couple of others, but it didn't take long.
Yeah, we weren't looking for something that big, to be honest. We didn't think we had the capital for it. It was just the right situation. I think when it's meant to be yours or something, the numbers will play out the way they do. It made sense financially, and we were able to get a huge start like that.
And it's not like you bought something, because I talked to a lot of investors who bought in 17, 18, 16, 19, whatever, pre-COVID, call it. And the prices were very low. The rents were lower, but they were still pretty good, and they were increasing. And a lot of people bought at the right time. But 2021 wasn't exactly like, it was still very competitive. Interest rates were low. It was very competitive on the investment side because it was cheap money. So it would have been very easy, the point I'm making, is to just say it's not the right time to buy, right? Because of how competitive it was, because prices were rising so quickly. But you kind of took that leap of faith and said, hey, I think this is a good deal. Let's just buy it. And like you said, time heals all, right? So if you hold the building for 8, 10, 12, 15 years, you're going to make money no matter what. Trying to time the market perfectly is like an impossible task that so many people can't do. And this is someone at 18 years old decided to take that jump and buy this, right? Not someone who's, 30, 40, 50. You invested, I'm assuming, basically all your money into this thing at the time, right?
Absolutely. Being a busser at a restaurant, we weren't making a substantial amount. So all the money that we had saved, that was everything basically. And, with that being said, investors that are just taking a look or waiting for the right time, as long as the numbers are making sense and it makes a situation where you're able to make money, it needs to make sense to you to be able, because there's never going to be a perfect time in any circumstance.
Right. And you said a good, very important thing before, which is you looked at the potential, right? So you saw that, hey, it needs some work. It's not turnkey, but obviously that's factored into the price that you paid for it. But you saw the potential of, hey, maybe the rents are under rented right now. Maybe the apartments need a lot of work. But once we go in here and we fix this thing up, we clean it up, we make it better, we're going to be able to get a lot more money in rent. And, you know, you're going to obviously increase the rate of return over the course of the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months.
Exactly. And that circumstance, you know, also taking a look into leases, I think that's a very important thing. Understanding who has a lease, who doesn't have a lease, and what issues are involved in a building. Like something that can be addressed as soon as you take over the building. And I think that was the hardest thing to understand is like, what do you need to address? What do you need to do right away?
Right. Yeah. Like, what are the urgent issues that you need to address today, and what can you fix in 12 months, 18 months? Like, you know, what affects health and safety and quality of life versus what's just a cosmetic or an aesthetic thing that we can just make look nicer once everything's rented and really done up. So how long after you bought that first building did you buy your next building?
So I recently just bought my last building, and it was in 2023, summer of 2023. Same owners.
Almost a year.
Exactly.
You bought it from the same people you bought
Same people, exactly. Yep, they sold us that, and you know, we made the building, we made it successful, made it operate, and you know, we talked about this before, but I was like, oh, you know, I'm never gonna have it. You know, it's like it's too big. You know, I don't know if I can
that
take
one was
it.
how many units?
This one's 19 units. Yeah, so this is a huge piece of property. So then we're like, you know what? It was just a thought. It was always something that we wanted, but we needed to see if it could become a reality. That's for sure. So, you know, it just worked out again. That's basically it.
So take us through that deal, right? So you close on the 8 unit. You go and you start fixing it up. Did you stay in touch with the sellers? Did you follow up with them? Or was it kind of like they called you and said, hey, Andy, we're thinking about selling. Would you be interested? Like, how did that happen? How did that come to be?
So basically, my dad has a very good relationship with the owner.
Okay.
You know, they were good friends. They had the same background, similar background.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they understood. They got in real estate young. They started. It was basically just like kind of the same. Like they had a common interest, if I should say. So when the opportunity presented itself to purchase this building, you know, I was ready to go, and I was ready. I was like, you know what? This is like another leap of faith. We need to continue with this success. Yep. And we had good success with the first one. Now continue it on with this next property.
And that's, you know, it's funny because I've seen clients of mine in the past, especially on the investment side, maintain good relationships with past sellers. And that a lot of the time is the best way to generate your next opportunity. Whether it's buying another building from that seller or finding a relationship, because what happens, like we were just talking about before we started, people who own real estate know people who own other real estate, right? If you own 15, 20, 30, 40 units, chances are you live in the same communities and, you know, you interact with the same types of people that also own a bunch of real estate. So you may not, you know, as a seller may not be looking to sell any of your properties, but you may know 3, 5, 6, 7 people who are. And you could say, oh, I just sold my building to this investor. They were legit. They closed on time. They paid a fair number. You should give them a call. And the next thing you know, you've got sellers of the buildings that you're buying from referring you to other sellers to buy their buildings. And the next thing you know, that's where the best deals a lot of the time can come, because you're dealing directly with the seller and you're kind of working off market. You're not competing against anybody else. And you're coming to a place where both the seller and the buyer win because it's, you know, it's a mutually agreed upon, you know, number.
Exactly. And, you know, a lot of these buildings, these, like, you know, these big multifamily buildings, they don't go on MLS a lot. They're not on MLS. They're more inside deals. It's who you know, who you need to talk to, build these relationships, build these connections. And that's definitely 100% true. You know, you definitely need to know these people. You definitely need to interact with them and hopefully do a lot of business.
Yeah, and leverage those relationships and,
exactly.
And stay in touch. So kind of, you know, you buy the first building, you buy the second building. Where did you decide, like, you know what, I think I should get my real estate license and try and be an agent and become a broker and really go into this business? Was it something that you always had in mind, like this is the next step? Or was it something where it was like, hey, why don't I give this a shot too?
I think it was just the opportunity, you know, definitely speaking, you know, I've seen what brokers have done. I've worked with bad brokers. I've worked with good brokers. Mm-hmm. We've seen the difference. And just, I think it's more of a sense that it's always been an interest of mine. I love selling. I love talking to people. That's the relationship I like to build.
Right.
So I think that, you know, that opportunity to be able to talk to people and still do what I love, you know, real estate, knowing everything, I think that was just like a no-brainer for sure.
No, and so now that you've been in it for, I mean, how many months have you been like in the business?
4 months.
4 months, which is pretty crazy considering the number of deals you've done already. But What has your experience been? You know, obviously you're coming in at a time where people, you know, the last 3 or 4 years, people have been like, oh, it's such a great time to get an age, you know, to become an agent, get licensed. What people I don't think realize and understood is really the last 4 or 5 years has kind of been the worst time. Obviously the last 18 to 24 months with the number of transactions decreasing is definitely a bad time to get in the business. But even during the height of the market in 21 and 22 with COVID, a new agent, it was really hard because you're typically working with mostly buyers. You're losing out in bidding wars left and right. You're getting deals and then the sellers are pulling the deals and selling them to someone else who's all cash. What has your experience been getting into the industry at a time where, you know, the drop off in agents is the biggest it's been in the last 40, 50 years?
Definitely, you know, I understood what was, you know, like a lot of the agents, like we've seen, you know, my uncle's trying to buy a house, my other uncle's trying to buy a house. Like it was a difficult time, and definitely understanding that this is still going on in today's market. I'm not going to say it wasn't intimidating. You know, that's definitely something that you need to go in just head first and definitely see where it takes you and just understand the value that you're bringing and why you're going to be successful in this business. And that's basically, you know, the one thing I've driven by. Never, you know, just because it may seem like a bad time, why is that going to stop you from trying?
Right. Right. And I think what you said there was interesting. Like, why are you going to be successful? It's important to be able to communicate what you're going to do differently than other agents and other brokers, right? Because you have to set yourself apart. And maybe it's your background and experience on the investment side, or maybe it's just like, I know for you, you know, you're working 7 days a week, you're hustling. So you're going to make yourself available for those clients. You're going to sit open houses. You're going to meet with people. You're going to put yourself out there. And I think, you know, what we've seen in our industry is a lot of agents who have become complacent, right? Like we say 21 and 22, the COVID numbers, right? People had businesses, maybe they were selling, you know, 10, 15, 20 houses a year. And the next thing you know, they're selling 40 or 50 for 1 or 2 years, and they get complacent. They don't want to work as hard. They don't want to grind as much. I think that's why a lot of agents are now seeing kind of the reverse side of that, where it's like, I'm not doing nearly the amount of business that I was doing 2 or 3 years ago. Why is that? And it's a lot of the time their unwillingness to adapt to how business is being done now.
And that's one thing I've seen, you know, not only in the entire real estate market, like other markets as well, other competitors, like what they're understanding is like, just because they had 2 very good years, you know, that all can change. You need to constantly be working on new business, keep like making yourself available for your current clients and new clients.
Right. Yeah, it can go away very quickly, right? I mean, it just because you've had results and success in the past doesn't mean you're guaranteed for anything in the future. You're not entitled to anything. So, I mean, what are some of the things that you're seeing in the industry right now, working with clients? What's your experience been like so far lately?
Lack of inventory, definitely. I'm working with lots of buyers, and we're struggling to get houses under contract. There's just not enough inventory to supply the demand. That's a constant thing we've been seeing for these past couple of years. Listings are important. We need listings for our clients. And when taking a look at this, you know, constantly working with buyers and seeing what they need and their needs and listening to what they need, you know, it's hard to satisfy them. Like I give you calls sometimes. Hey, do you have so-and-so for one of my clients?
Yeah.
You know, we don't have it. And that's the thing. But trying to make yourself available, constantly looking for new listings, seeing what's coming available, connecting with other agents to see maybe they have something in the pipeline that can satisfy your client's needs.
Right.
I think that's the most important thing that we need to know.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I'm curious what your perspective is on as a new agent, right? Because we were just talking before, I was talking with a couple guys on my team about like when you're in the business for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years, you kind of get blinders, right? You're kind of fresh. You're coming into the business at a different time. Business is being done differently than it's ever been done before. We've got commission lawsuits and settlements and all this other stuff. What was your perception of the industry, right? Coming in versus now that you're in as an agent, what were the differences between what you thought it would be like being an agent versus what it actually is like?
To be honest, when I first got in the industry, I honestly thought, you know, the deals would just come. They would unfold. And, I honestly was like, oh, with time, they'll all come. And like, you need to make things happen.
Right.
But now with today's standpoint, if you're not going to hustle for these deals, if you're not going to do the floor time, if you're not going to do the open houses, if you're not going to sit out prospect for a new business, there's no opportunity there for a new agent. Although a lot of other agents, especially throughout Hudson Valley, they have a lot of repeat business. They're working with new clients and they have a big name because they've been in the industry for 5, 10, 15 years.
Right.
I'm just starting out. So consistently putting yourself out there, understanding what your clients need and satisfying your needs. I think that's one thing that I wish I knew starting.
What are you seeing when you're working with clients? Like, what are the things that are important to them as an agent, right? Because obviously, you've got a unique set of experience as an investor with your background and your knowledge base and everything else. But as a brand new agent, you don't have a ton of sales experience in the sense that you haven't sold 100 houses for the last 10 years. So what do you think it is that is causing clients to say, hey, Andy's a great guy, love what he's doing, we want to work with him? What are the things that you're doing as a new agent to set yourself apart from the other agents who are maybe more experienced and have been doing this a lot longer?
I just like to consider myself like a people person. I definitely love talking to people and understanding what they need. Mm-hmm. I've been through that multiple times before I found the realtor that I like to work with. Before I became a realtor, I felt like I wasn't being heard. I wasn't being understood by another agent. Now I'm giving people the opportunity for them to tell me what they need and capitalize on what they need.
Yeah, so you're focusing on their needs and hearing them out.
Exactly, and not just, listening and then putting them something that I think would be a good fit for them, because that's not my job. My job is to be satisfactory towards my clients, and they need to buy what they're comfortable with buying, and listening to them and showing the value of what they told me to be able to find their new home.
That's really important, what you just said, and I don't think a lot of people will really understand that, but I see it every day. I see it when I talk to agents, right? Whether I'm the listing agent, I'm talking to the buyer's agents, or I'm talking to other agents at different companies and everything. There's a really bad habit amongst real estate agents to not listen to what their clients are telling them. It's like, oh yeah, I want to be here. I want to do this, this, and this. And you kind of say like, oh, you don't want that. You really want this, that type of thing. And to some extent, there is the truth that a lot of it does, like, some buyers are all over the place and some people don't know what they want. But I always tell every single client that I work with, let's not eliminate anything. Let's keep our criteria super broad. And over the course of time, they'll naturally narrow down what they want. But I'm not going to eliminate things for them on their behalf. But I think a lot of agents do. And then what ends up happening is you're showing those clients over and over and over again things that they really don't want. And they're losing faith in you as their agent because you keep showing them all the stuff that they don't want to see. It's like you go to the car dealership and you want to buy an SUV and all they do is keep showing you sedans. Eventually you're going to be like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? I don't want that. I want this.
Exactly. And definitely understanding that is a huge thing. Not a lot of people understand that. And as crazy it may sound, it's just understanding what your clients need is a very important thing. And like you said, keep their options open. Understand, like, maybe they want to be in Dutchess County. Oh, look, I found something in Orange County that may be really close, but maybe something worth looking at.
Right. So you're broadening the criteria.
Exactly. And not necessarily I'm not listening to them. I'm just trying to show them
suggestions.
Exactly. And with taking a look at that, if they don't like that, at least I know what they don't like. And I'm able to understand as an agent what would be a better fit and accompany them to things that are a better fit.
Right. So you're kind of expanding their criteria, but eliminating what they don't like, right? So you're not eliminating things for them, but once you've actually identified those things via showings, via feedback, whatever the case may be, then you can know, hey, this isn't going to be for them or not. As a younger guy, I got licensed at 20, so I understand what it's like getting into the business at a young age. And, a lot of the time when you get in the business, like the traditional way of training agents is, hey, make a list of your sphere of influence, contact everyone, let them know that you're in the business, and they'll just naturally, it'll lead to business, right? I'm sure none of your friends, or very, very few, are buying homes at 20, 21, 22 years old. What is your advice to someone who is newer in the business but young to say, "Hey, I don't know anybody who's buying houses. How can you meet people? How can you generate that business when you don't have anybody that's your age that's actually transacting in your sphere?" So you're really just working with cold contacts and clients.
You definitely need to just keep prospecting new business, definitely keep going to networking events, definitely going to open houses, doing floor time, doing these things that expose you to people. Maybe, like you said, 21, 22-year-olds, most of them may not be buying a new house or listing a new house. There's very limited amount of people who we
None
know.
of them are.
Exactly. Although, few of them, absolutely.
Very, yes. And typically they're in people who are investors with an investment mindset.
Exactly. And when taking a look at that, just definitely putting yourself out there, just networking, understanding, go to the coffee shop, introduce yourself. You're a realtor. Definitely just put your name out there, hand business cards out. There's just multiple things you can do. And when even at the coffee shop, like one of my clients, I found him at the coffee shop. We were just talking about real estate. I had my name tag on. We were talking about real estate. He's like, you know what? I'm actually trying to buy a house, but my realtor, he's just not listening and he doesn't understand what I want. I was like, okay, let's go. Let me show you a few homes. And I just want the opportunity to do business with you. You have your choice on who you want to work with, but let me have the opportunity
And
to
this
do
is
business.
just someone that you saw waiting in line and struck up a conversation.
They saw my name tag. They're like, oh, you work for Berkshire Hathaway. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then we started talking and then it just resulted to a deal. And that's just basically, it just goes to show that that's possible. And just wear your name tag, wear it with pride, give out your business cards, network with people, talk to agents like yourself, agents
Get
who
out
are,
of your comfort zone.
Exactly. Agents who are doing constant business. Understand what they were doing as a new agent to build your business.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's a great story. I'm sure you've had some pushback, or maybe not, you tell me. But I remember, and I know I've talked to a lot of agents who are younger agents, and I think it's important that, you can be looked at as a success story for a lot of these agents who are, getting into the business at a young age. You're 21, you own 27 units, you're selling a bunch of deals already in your first 4 or 5 months in the business. How did you get there, right? And how do you build the respect and the rapport with those clients? Because I think a lot of the time, people working with people who are 35, 40, 50, 60 years old, and their inclination naturally is to not necessarily listen to what their agent's recommending. How are you getting through to your clients like, hey, these are my recommendation, this is what I'm here, I'm advising you on these things. What are you doing to get them to say, hey, you know what, Andy, that's some great advice. We're going to take what you have to say, versus saying, we're not going to listen to him.
Honestly, it's just giving valid advice. Multiple times I've seen that. And it just, although, you may be trying to give advice, you may be trying to give supporting facts that may help somebody during the time, understanding of what they're saying and giving them valid advice that's best known to your opinion, I think they appreciate that. And they understand that truthfully, this is what I would do if I was in your situation.
Authenticity. You're being true and honest and authentic with your messaging.
Exactly. And that's a lot of things, in our industry, we're not known for that.
No.
So definitely trying to tell people, being authentic with them, understanding what they need, and just giving them the best possible advice. That's all you can do.
What would you say, or as a new agent, like what are some of the struggles, like the things that you found to be the most difficult, or the things that are the biggest objections or struggles that you've had to overcome so far?
Definitely the age gap. A 21-year-old realtor, they may not trust you. You may look too young. Maybe just somebody.
Thankfully, you look a little bit older than you are.
A little bit, yeah. But
I always joke, I grew in a beard when I was young just to make myself look 10 years older.
Yeah, but definitely, the age factor definitely comes into play when they know how old you're. They're like, oh, like maybe he doesn't know as much. That's definitely been a factor, a hump that you need to get over. Like, during the listing process, sellers will work with 3 to 4 different agents before they actually list with somebody.
Right.
Coming in, taking a look, maybe like look at this brand new agent, But then look at this seasoned agent, 20 years. Maybe they know much when they really most likely don't, you know? And that's just been the thing, you know, definitely overcoming that gap and having people believe in you due to your age gap. And also just, I think it was from the beginning, where do I start? What do I do? Like you said.
Yeah, being coachable, being open to learning and seeking out that information, right? Where you're looking for, like, how do I get better? How do I generate experience? How do I get opportunities? I think that's a big part of it.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like when we started in the business, like you said yourself, at 21 years old, I didn't know what to do starting off, because, you know, you got your license, you got all the training, you're all set up. You think you know what to do, but then when you actually go, you get your opportunity, you know, you won't get it. And that's, you know, that's part of the thing.
Well, there's a saying, right? You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And if you don't know, what can you do to figure it out? And that's kind of where it's like, that's where experience obviously comes in, but that's where having mentors and seeking out, hey, I'm dealing with this for the first time. How would you address this? Is there anything that you're doing to, like, take your weaknesses? Like, I remember when I was brand new, I would say, oh, you know, yes, I'm young, but that means that I'm very in line with the technology, the marketing, all of these things to position your house. I use social media to build my business in the beginning, because I would just basically tell every seller, like, look, I understand social media better than anybody else does. Everybody can get your house on Zillow and realtor.com and everything else. I'm the one that's going to get your home the most amount of exposure on social media, which, you know, half of these agents don't even use YouTube and all of this stuff, different stuff. Still to this day, that's a large part of the conversation that I'm having with clients. Is there anything like that you're doing where you're saying, hey, my age is actually an advantage over this person who's been in the business for 40 years, they're 60 years old, or whatever the case may be?
And exactly the tech part, exactly what you're saying. Being able to market someone's home and give the exposure that not necessarily another agent would be able to, or just hasn't explored that opportunity yet. That is something that I've been showing my clients and been telling them, look, like a 3D walkthrough, just understanding, like satellite views, just understanding, like giving the prospective buyers enough information to be able to make an educated guess, or, you know, a decision on whether or not to come look at the house or not, and put as much exposure and put as many eyes on that house that you can.
I tell every buyer that I work with that I'm not a salesperson, that my job is just to provide them with the information to make them feel comfortable to make an educated decision on whether or not they want to buy, right? So you're just providing information, providing feedback, providing as much guidance and advice as possible. I'm not going to sell you. I'm going to, a lot of the times, not sell you, right? I've talked many buyers out of putting in offers and buying homes based on conversations that we've had, right? Going into a home and saying, yeah, you know, I don't think this is the one that is going to be for you, because you're going to be compromising on all of these things that you said you wanted, but now we're not going to even go towards. And then they appreciate that much more down the road when they do find that right home, that right fit, because they're saying, oh, we could have ended up in that, but instead we got everything that we wanted over here. I think that's so important to do that. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk now more on the investment side, because there's a lot of people who listen, who are interested in investing. Maybe they own a property or two, or maybe they don't. What are the best ways that someone who's looking to buy their first investment property can get in, right? Like, what's the easiest, if you were saying, hey, Andy, I want to buy an investment, what should I do? What are the next steps?
I would definitely, part of the thing I see is just definitely knowing what you can handle. That's for sure. And what I mean by that, not financially, tenants, buildings, there's a lot of things that go within it. Understand what goes into the building. Understand what makes you a good landlord. What makes your apartments worthy to be rented. Definitely, that's one of the first things you need to understand. What can you handle at this point in time? Do you have the time to be able to invest in that property, to do the work, put in the sweat equity?
Yeah, because it's not passive. They call it passive income, but it's not. It's extremely active.
No, it's not. And it's definitely, that's what it is. And you need to be hands-on in this business. You need to make sure, look, the porch is swept, the stairs are swept. Make the building presentable. And there's a lot of things I still go to this day. I still go and sweep all my buildings.
Really?
Always. I don't pay nobody to do that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Well, there's something, no, absolutely not. There's something to be said with interfacing with the property that you own. I know landlords who own stuff and they never see it. And I know landlords who are there every day, and everybody's different, but at the end of the day, if something breaks in the chain of command, it's still on you, right? Because you have to take ownership of your property, of your business, of your system, of the team that you've built to manage that building. And if something happens and it's not fixed or it's not done properly, that's a reflection of you as the owner. You're the one that's on the hook for that. You're the one that's liable for that. So I think that's great advice. And for someone who's looking to scale, right? Because I know a lot of investors, they own some 2 families, they own some 3 families, and they're saying, how the hell do I get up to a 10 unit, 12 unit, 15 unit? What's your advice for someone like that who's saying, Andy, I've been buying these small little properties, but now I really want to get to that next level. How can I make that jump?
Definitely making connections on people who have those buildings. What did they do to get those 12 unit, 15 unit, 20 unit buildings? What have they been doing? Like, are they taking their equity out of their smaller properties and putting it towards this big property? Or what the method may be? And basically just understanding your current financial situation, and definitely getting a realtor who understands the investment side, who understands what it takes to get one of these buildings. That's part of it. Definitely having the right guide and the right person next to you who understands what it takes to have an investment property.
Right. Now, trying to think of the best way to word it, for someone who is, because you've leveraged partnerships a lot, right? For someone who's interested in that, maybe they have a friend, a family member, something like that, who is also interested. What's the best way to create a partnership with someone? How do you find those partners? What's the best way to go about that?
It needs to be somebody you trust. That's 100%. If any advice can be taken from this podcast, it's somebody you trust, somebody who's going to be there when you haven't. Just like my 2 partners just now. I'm focusing on this real estate part. I'm focusing on being a salesperson, continuing growing my business. What they've been doing, they've been working after the property, doing the sweat equity, doing the work that, I wasn't there to help them, but they trusted me that I'm going to be able to expand my business and expand our properties and continue to grow.
Right. And create new relationships that could lead to new opportunities.
And definitely somebody, are you willing to make the sacrifice? And as long as the other person that you're going in partnership is, are you guys able to stay till 12 o'clock at night painting one apartment, getting it ready for rent tomorrow morning? Are you ready for that?
Do you have conversations around like what your goals are with them? Like, do you say like, I want to have this many units and this is what we're aspiring to, and you have like a bigger picture? Or is it kind of like, you each have your own individual goals?
No, we're definitely, we've built this partnership since, from a young age, we've been talking about it. From our entire lives, we've been talking about it. We want to achieve bigger things in this real estate passion, and definitely continuing with business. There's obviously not a set number because we're never going to stop until, we keep going.
You just keep scaling.
Of course.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And how do you split up the responsibilities? Like, do you clearly define them? Is it kind of like the 3 of you just talk and it's like, hey, this needs to be done, I'm on it type of thing?
So for us in the business, that's exactly how it is. Like, look, who's available to do that right now? There's 3 of us. There's no reason none of us should be, not available. We all do it and we all take the times. Them too, they may be not available. I'll go do it real quick. Or that's, there is responsibility that needs to be taken, but it needs to be at like convenient and able to be done at a timely manner.
And you're probably open communication and really making sure everybody's on the same page, right?
Exactly. And that's part of it. Definitely making sure we understand what needs to be done, who's going to do it, when it's going to be done. Communication is a huge standpoint.
So what would you say is your biggest piece of advice? We'll start for agents. Someone who's getting into the business, 1, maybe 2 things. If you're saying, hey, you're not in yet or you're about to start, what's your biggest piece of advice for that person?
Definitely get somebody who's been or who's doing what you're wanting to do. I think that's one of the most important things. Definitely connect with somebody who's doing constant business or who's at a level that you want to be at within the coming years.
That's a great piece of advice. And for someone who wants to invest, what would your biggest piece of advice for them be?
I would basically just structure the same thing. Who is somebody that you know that is investing? Who got you into this? Where do you see? Connect with people. Talk to different people. There are multiple investors in Hudson Valley and probably any area you are. If that's what you want to do, talk to them. They were the ones that do it. They're the ones that you look up to in a sense. So definitely try to, like my dad. I asked him multiple times when I first got, like, how'd you do it? How'd you get started on this? Like, constant advice, constant talking on the phone, hours at night, talking about everything. Because, that's something that if you're passionate about it,
Yep.
you're going to want to talk about it.
Yep. And follow-up question for that, for both. What's the best way to find a mentor, right? Like, how are you able to go out there and find that person? Is it networking events? Is it social media? Is it both? Like, where do you think you can find that person?
So the way I took a look at it, and definitely looking at different things, I was just looking through social media, looking through people in my own company, looking through people in other companies. Who is doing what I want to do right now? Who is at that level that I'm like, wow, they're doing constant business. They're continuing to start. They're continuing doing this. You know what? I want to hear their 2 cents. I want to hear what they have to say. Not necessarily saying I have to listen to them, because everybody's got to structure their business in their own way. But who's going to, like, what did they do when they started? Right. Everybody had a start. Nobody just, was 20 years, boom, just started. Nobody, you know?
I think Abraham Lincoln once said, you can learn something from everyone. Sometimes it's what to do, and sometimes it's what not to do, right? And so I think that's true. Whether it's someone that you want what they have or you don't want what they have, you can kind of look at what they're doing and say, if they don't have what I want, I probably shouldn't do what they're doing. Or if they do have what I want, I should probably copy what they're doing and kind of mimic that and learn from them. And, I've found that the people who are out there who have had success typically are willing to share their ideas, to mentor, or to offer up an hour of their time and say, hey, I'd love to help this new person get to that next level, give them some way, some tricks and advice and everything else like that.
And that's the thing being said. Talking to multiple different people never hurts. Hearing what people have to say, because there may be something that, the mentor that you had your eye on said that you're like, I don't know about that. And then you talk to somebody else. That sounded a lot better.
Right.
Different business need to be strategized in a way where you feel that you're going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
You need to capitalize on the opportunities that are presented to yourself. So understanding what other people are doing, adjusting your business accordingly to be successful.
And I think you said something important there, which is strategy, right? Like, you've got to come in with a strategy, a plan, be intentional about what you're doing. Yes, there's a time to try new things and kind of quote unquote wing it, but you've got to be intentional about what you're doing and taking action on.
Absolutely. And that's huge. That's a huge part.
You got to have a plan.
You definitely need to have a plan. Starting in, I didn't have a plan, but when I actually sat down, made a plan for myself, talked to multiple different people that have made me, like, continuing with my business, what I've been doing to this day, I put down in my plan, I see what I did. Now day to day, keep going by the same plan, by the same plan. It hasn't failed me yet.
That's it. So for anybody who wants to connect with you, what's the best way to find you? Social media, whatever?
Yes. So my social media page, that's definitely one of the best ways to find me.
Instagram?
Instagram.
What's your Instagram handle?
It's Andi Berisha _Berkshire.
Okay. And we'll link that up in somewhere, wherever this goes, so people can find you. And yeah, any last thoughts, any ideas, anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate you guys having me. I appreciate everything.
Thank you for coming on, man. And I look forward to watching you continue to grow and have success. And I wish you nothing but the best.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Jake.
Thank you.